Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a very special Kulitan. It's, if you can see my shirt, it's Pride, and we're having our Pride Month Kulitan this afternoon. So we have a wonderful discussion centered around inclusivity, diversity, and innovation happening this afternoon. So if you're not familiar with who I am, hi, I'm Eunice Bragan. I'm the head of marketing and communications for Idea Space and Kubo, and I will be hosting this Pride Month Kulitan this afternoon. So if you're watching from the comfort of your mobile phones, your laptops, any other screens you might have, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations with the founders, movers, shakers, and enablers in the Philippine startup ecosystem. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope you're settling down and having a nice drink and enjoying your merienda. We're going to have a wonderful discussion for you this afternoon. So before anything else, I'd like to do a quick intro of Kubo and what it is that we do, and how do we help founders and startups. So Cuba is the Philippines National Innovation Hub. Its name is actually inspired by the Bahay Kubo. That's why we call it Kubo. And the goal of our National Innovation Hub is really to foster not just innovation and entrepreneurship, but really a sense of bayanihan and teamwork in the Philippine startup ecosystem. Next slide, please. So what exactly is Scuba and what is it that we do? So first of all, we're a public-private partnership between DOST, DTI, Idea Space, and JP Morgan. We're also stage agnostic, so any stage of startups from idea stage to a more mature growth stage, even if you're about to exit, you're welcome. We'd love to collaborate with you and we'd love to be able to find a way to serve you and help you out. And then I think the third key thing you'd like to know about Kubo and you need to know about Kubo is that we're multi-sectoral. We partner with both the public and private sector, with other nonprofits, with venture capitalists, and other key movers and enablers in the universities, such as schools and multi-sectoral organizations, to actually deliver on our mission of developing Filipino startups and helping them go global. Next slide, please. So this is just actually a quick snapshot of our partners. So as mentioned, we do have our founding partners, which include the likes of the Department of Science and Technology, the Department of Trade and Industry, JP Morgan, Idea Space, YBI, and Investing in Women. You also have professional service partners such as Taxumo, PwC, DCNI as part of our roster, and also other partners such as AWS, Google for Startups, and E27, supporting our mission of empowering Filipino startups. Next slide, please. So the three core actions that Kubo focuses on are grow, develop, and collaborate. Next slide. So how do we do that? A lot of our actions under Grow focus on empowering and continuing to grow the Philippine startup ecosystem. So there you'll see things like the Kulitans, which we've been holding offline pre-pandemic and online now since last year. We also do road shows and ecosystem mappings to help people and organizations and even larger institutions have a better idea of what the Philippine startup ecosystem looks like. Also, if you've been a long time follower of Kubo, you know that we regularly hold basics classes, which are basically covering some of the key startup topics that you need to know if you're starting out or if you're new to the startup ecosystem. The next action is develop. So that covers a lot of startup development activities from consultations to workshops to trade delegations and incubation and acceleration programs. And lastly, There's a collaborate pillar where we do things, of course, like Philippine Startup Week, the TBI 4.0 program, working with colleges and universities across the country to help them grow and develop their technology business incubators and support more startups and more founders. We also do things like Rescue, which is a competition held last year, targeted to startups with COVID-19 products and services or COVID-19 related initiatives. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the services that we offer. So prior to the pandemic, we do offer our HQ as a co-working space. That's definitely on hold right now while we're waiting for things to get back to normal. But the great part is there's still so many more services that you can avail of, such as the QLITAN, which is happening now, Basics, which also happens monthly, consultations and workshops, which are also monthly as well and have very specific topics. So there's also feedback sessions, which we hold with some of our in-house mentors if you want to get advice on very specific topics or concerns that you or your startup might have. We also do a showcase to highlight the different startups in our ecosystem. And then also, we do run incubation and acceleration programs to continuously support startup development in the Philippines. So the great thing is, as with pretty much everything that Kubo offers, all of this is for free. So you just have to send us a PM if you have any questions. But we also put up a calendar of events at the start of every month, so you can find out which Kulitan is happening and when, where the basics consultation and workshops that are going to be happening for the month, and so you can book a slot as quickly as possible so you can get the help and support that you need. Okay, next slide, please. So all of this, everything that we're doing at Kubo is really to serve this very important mission of helping Filipino startups change the world. So everything that we offer, from the basics and kulitan to ecosystem mapping, so the different programs that we work on year round, it's really all to support this mission. So if you're new to us and you're new to the Philippine startup ecosystem, we'd love to be able to help you out, meet with you even virtually, and have you be part of our community. And then also, we would like to give a shout out to one of our supporters for the Kulitan, one of our sponsors, Job Street. So Job Street actually offers light ads for startups who might be currently hiring, looking for interns. So you can avail of this particular partnership that Job Street and Kubo have. So we will put the link on chat, but also I'll also read it out for everyone, just so you can take note of it. So it's bit.ly slash jobstreet dash kubo dash light ad. So this is a wonderful perk that JobStreet is offering to our community. So if you're watching this, please take advantage. JobStreet can definitely help you hire people, get the word out about your organization and what you offer. So please take advantage of this particular perk. And then we also have our events for the month. June is already quickly coming to a close, so I just wanted to highlight some of the events that are happening for July. So July 1st, we do have a workshop with Facebook on Discovery Commerce. So that's happening pretty soon. So if you haven't signed up for it, please do so. You can find our events in the events tab under our Facebook page. And if you're having trouble signing up or getting confirmations, please just feel free to send us a PM. But it's definitely happening a few days from now. I think it's on Thursday. So please make sure to sign up for that Facebook workshop. And then on July 6th, we also have a consultation for tax and accounting matters with PNA Grant Thornton. So if you have some of these uh, tax or accounting questions, if you're trying to figure out how it applies to your startup, if you have any concerns related to tax and accounting, please make sure to sign up for that as well. And then the week after, on the 13th, we will also have another consultation, but this time it's with the Decini and Decini Law Office. So this is specifically for legal matters for startups. So if you're also finding out about us from some of our other partners or partner communities, like Startup PH, I know this is definitely a question that people have often. So please make sure to sign up for that consultation as well. And then for July 15th, for those of you who are in the earlier stages of the startup, if you're in the idea stage or if you have maybe a bit of an idea and are currently developing it, you don't want to miss our basics on the 15th, which is all about the business model canvas. So there's a lot to learn from this particular framework, and this will definitely help you structure your startup and identify areas for delivering value, potential partnerships, and other key aspects of your business. So we definitely recommend that you sign up for that basics. If you're a little bit further along in your startup journey and you feel like you need the help of an incubator or accelerator, or if you've heard stories from the likes of Caliber and NextPay, and you're intrigued about the idea of applying to Y Combinator, we also have an info session on that and a workshop with AWS happening on the 21st. That's all about applying to Y Combinator. So we hope that you sign up for that as well. And then towards the end of the month, we have a couple of big events happening. On the 23rd, we have a showcase for B2B startups featuring the incubatees of the Incubation Leveling Up B2B Startups program. On the 23rd, we also have a feedback session on pitching with RT Lopez of BrainSparks. And then on the 27th, we have a QLITAN, this time on pushing boundaries in marketing. So all of these things you'll see in our calendar of events going up pretty soon. For those that do have pre-registration required, noted, please look for the Eventbrite link as we'll need to have you pre-register so that your space can be counted for the event. And then, as always, we also do have our mentorship by request, which is available to the registered and onboarded Kubo community startups. So make sure to take advantage of that particular resource as well. All right. So as mentioned, we do have the workshop with Facebook happening on Thursday, July 1, 2021 from 9 to 10 a.m. So this is exclusive to the Kubo community startups. So if you're a registered and onboarded member of our community, make sure to check out our private Facebook group and the events tab for more details. So please make sure to sign up for that particular event. And then, as mentioned earlier, we also have another workshop happening with AWS on how to apply to Y Combinator. That's from 3 to 4 p.m. on July 2021, which is a Wednesday. Again, this is also exclusive to the Kubo community startups. So if you haven't signed up and signed up to be part of our community, make sure to do so because all of these perks will become available to you. Okay, let's go through the rest of the slides. Oh, another particular challenge or competition that we like to share with you is the Singapore Airlines App Challenge, which is the leading digital innovation challenge for travel and aviation. So the submissions for the startup track are closing pretty soon. They're closing tomorrow. So if you haven't applied yet and you're a startup in the travel and aviation space, please make sure to do so. You have less than 24 hours before the submissions closes, so please make sure to do so. And then also, we're also the community partner for She Loves Tech, which is the world's largest competition for women in technology. The registration is ongoing and will close by July 31st. So if you're a woman founder or a male founder addressing women-specific issues, you can definitely apply to She Loves Tech. There's only 32 days left, so please make sure to apply at apply.shelovestech.org. You can get more details from the Kubo Facebook page and from the She Loves Tech website as well. All right. So I hope you're still with us, and I hope that you're excited about all of these perks, competitions, and events that are available for startup founders. To formally open this afternoon's Kulitan, I would like to welcome the Executive Director for Idea Space and Kubo, Kat Chan, to give her opening remarks.
Thanks, Eunice. I'll keep this really short just because I'm excited to hear from our panelists today. So, welcome everyone. I hope you got excited by some of the things that Eunice shared earlier today and that you'll join the community and also participate in some of our programs and activities lined up for startups. There are a few others that she wasn't able to mention, like our upcoming Microsoft Acceleration Program and things like that. But anyway, I digress. I'm really excited that Kubo gets to celebrate Pride Month through this little event that we're doing, this Kulitan. And I'm also super excited about the speakers that we have today. I'm a very, I guess, I don't know, like cis hetero female person, right? Like, and I can't even possibly relate to some of the challenges and opportunities and other things that come with being part of the LGBTQIA community plus. But it has been an issue that's been raised in the startup community, right? Like I think it was like a back end capital report or something. It's like less than 1% of venture funding or investments has been made in LGBTQ founders, or that you know there's still again maybe systemic societal issues, right, that are preventing founders from being pride and out and about right about their identity. So these are just some of the things that I hope we can all be makulit about today, and really celebrating, right, like the diversity of our community, and the different that I always believe, right, like when we think about bayanihan and teamwork, that a great idea, a fantastic startup, it can really come from anywhere and from anyone, and that diversity in point of view, in belief, in experience, like all adds to the rich tapestry of what makes our startup community unique. So yeah, really excited to hear from the founders today. And again, I encourage everyone that's listening to be makulit in this discussion. Do send in your questions, and I'm sure we'll have like a fantastic chat with our founders. So yeah, happy Pride Month, guys. Woo! Like the month is coming to a close, but this is our first Pride Kulitan, and I'm really excited to be part of it. So thank you, everyone, and yeah, let's have a good chat. Back to you, Eunice.
Thanks, Kat. So I'm wearing my Pride shirt, if you haven't seen it, to really celebrate this particular date and this particular kulitan. So as Kat mentioned earlier, innovation is nothing without inclusivity and diversity and creativity. And we'd really love to see a Philippine startup ecosystem that welcomes different experiences, backgrounds, perspectives. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our wonderful speakers one by one, starting with Amrei Dizon, who is the founder and chief creative officer of Vitalstrats Creative Solutions. Hi, Amrei. Good afternoon.
Hi, Eunice. Good afternoon. Thank you
Good
very much
afternoon.
for inviting us here at Kulitan with Kubo. Very excited for the discussion.
Thank you. And happy Pride.
Happy Pride!
Yes. So thanks, Amrei. So our next speaker that I'll call up to the panel or to the stage is attorney Darwin Mariano, who is the CEO and founder of Ticket to Me. Hi, Darwin.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am the founder of TicketMe. I'm no longer the CEO, but yes, happy to be here and happy to be part of the discussion.
Thanks, Darwin. Next up, I'd like to call on the Chief Marketing Officer of Taksumo, Mr. Evan Tan.
Hi, Denise. Hi everyone. I am Evan Tan. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Taxumo and also the Communications Director of the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Who that was a mouthful, but yeah. Hi
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone, for joining us, and we're so glad to have you, all three of you, on board. And then, of course, this panel can't go without a moderator, so I'd like to call on the chair of the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce, Ronn Astillas.
Happy Pride, everyone. Happy
Happy
Pride,
Pride!
Eunice. Happy Pride also to Kat and to all the people and the staff of Cubo. It's nice to see fresh faces from from the LGBT community. Amrei Dizon, Evan Tan, and Darwin. So these are good friends. And again, thank you. And we are very much excited this afternoon as we, talk about inclusivity in the workplace, in the startup industry, or in any MSMEs that we have out there. So should we begin, Eunice? I think that this afternoon will be very interesting. And should I take the floor now and start with the questions, right?
Start, we just want to ask everyone what their pronouns are.
Oh yes, yes, oh, definitely. Um, my pronoun he him. Should we go to Amrei, then Darwin and Evan? I'm looking at the monitor.
Mine is she, her. She, her, hers.
Mine is he, him.
My pronouns are he and him.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, Amrei, Darwin, Evan, Eunice. And again, I think it's high time that we continuously talk about the contribution of the LGBT enterprises in economic development, especially for some sectors like the startup industry. Can you tell us something about your company and what exactly is your particular role in making sure that the company is alive and kicking for the past years? Should I call on Darwin? Kamusta? Hindi ka na pala CEO, founder, ano
Yes,
pa?
yes, yes,
No,
yes.
go
So
ahead.
we appointed the CEO last February, but I am still the founder of Ticket to Me. So we are the Philippines' first fully digital and fastest growing event ticketing and integrated video platform. So we have over 11,000 payment options nationwide. We serve clients like GMA Network, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, PETA, Repertory Philippines. We work with Idea First Studios, with TBA Studios, many other groups. Internationally, we work with NBC Universal, we work with WeTV, iFlix. So basically what we are is we are a ticketing platform that offers creators the ability to monetize their content. Whether you are producing live events, so that was the pre-pandemic era, or online content now. Basta ticketed, then you can rely on Ticket to Me for help.
Wow, salamat Darwin. I think we'll go deeper into that ticketing system because I think that's very much important. Now that everyone's online, digital, you have bloggers, you have everyone's trying to come up with their YouTube channels, and the question is it really sustainable? Can you monetize the content that you produce? And we'll see more of that later. Evan Tan, kamusta? And can you tell us something about Taksumo and what you've been doing for Taksumo?
Sir Ron, so Taxumo is an end-to-end tax filing and payment platform catered to Filipino professionals, self-employed, small business owners, mixed income earners, and now corporations as well, since we're also catering to corporations recently. So this is the long and short of it. I guess we also help people with business registration and also help them like if they have very specific concerns on regarding, for example, tax avoidance, like for their businesses. They can consult with accountants or partner accountants. Basically, that's what Taxuma does for our SMEs.
Thank you, Evan. How are we moving towards digital taxation systems? And siguro before you answer that, I'll jump straight to Amrei muna because among all the three of you, si Amrei ang pinakamatagal na in terms of presence in the market. Tama, Amrei, with Vitalstrats Creative Solutions, you've been in the industry for 17 years, and
Yes.
perhaps you can share with our audience this afternoon what you've been doing for VCS and what exactly is VCS?
So yes, we just turned 17 last Friday. So I'm the founder and chief creative officer of Vitalstrats. I started the business when I was 9 years old. So do the math, plus 17 years. Just kidding. Vitalstrats Creative Solutions is a digital content production company. So we are a creative services company. We conceptualize marketing campaigns, and we also have our digital content production in house. So we have graphic design capabilities, video editing, video production, animation capabilities as well. So clients mostly come to us with a marketing problem. Usually, how do we launch our product? How do we promote our business to potential clients? So we come up with campaigns, marketing solutions, and from the strategy that we create from them, we also execute the several digital outputs, which we also publish online.
My question to the three of you: how difficult is it to come up to start a company? You know, is it something that's really just out of passion? Is it something that you have to think over 1,000 times, or do you just have to wait for a sign out there and say, okay, today is the day that I will register and do and start my company? I mean, how difficult is it? Darwin, maybe take it to me, and I understand before it's like all physical events. Now that it's digital, when you started, take it to me. What was the scenario? What was your mental stage at that time?
Well, I think to the first part of your question, I think being a founder is one of the most taxing, exhausting, challenging experiences of my life, but it's also been one of the most rewarding. You have to get into it when you're absolutely convinced that you're solving a problem that you're passionate about and where you are prepared to commit to long term. So I think yun eh, it's a
Mhm.
never ending state of wanting to do right by your employees, wanting to do right by the people who trust you, so your customers and your clients, and then your partners. So yeah, mahirap yun.
Do you agree, Evan? I think Darwin highlighted two items. Like it's problem solving, at the same time it's long term commitment. Parang relationship, I guess. So is that the same case with Taksumo when you guys started Taksumo?
First, let me answer your question, Ron, a while ago on how easy it is to start a business. Um, I remember reading a study that says like around 50%, maybe even more of the businesses that start fail at the fifth year. Like they end up going bankrupt or basically
Mhm.
fizzling out. So it is very difficult. I think a lot of businesses, especially during the pandemic, folded because they couldn't keep up basically with the challenges, like all the changes that were happening when the quarantine, when the lockdown started to happen. Like the economy would open and like start to close again and like open, so they couldn't keep up. So it's very hard. It's harder now. Um, I guess I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless they were my enemies, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, if you're not really decided on starting a business, it's hard. You couldn't just run on passion because eventually, like, it would fizzle out eventually. So yeah, to your question again, could you repeat the question again?
No,
What was-
I mean, taking off from what Darwin has said, is it also
Mm.
about really problem solving? That do you have to understand first that there's a problem that needs to be addressed, and then that you yourself is committing to it in the long run. So were these part of your decision making process back then?
Yes, definitely. So when we started Taxumo, we had to do research on our market. Of course, we
Mhm.
identified the problem is very personal for us. One of my co-founders, Ginger, also had the business Manila Workshops. So she had problems with her taxation, and EJ, our CEO, who is also her husband, thought that he could actually develop a solution that would help her with her taxes. And they realized that hey, we could offer this to a lot of people. But the question is, do people actually need it? Are people ready? because we've been doing it, I guess, like the traditional way. A lot of people hire accountants, like some actually do their taxes on their own. But we lose a lot of hours for that. So how we were trying to understand how we can introduce this new system to them and how willing they would be to adapt, and of course, like if they would be willing to pay the subscription price for it. So it was a lot of like pivoting, iteration, just understanding our market further, and we are where we are now, almost at our fifth year.
That's right. I mean, congratulations to Taksumo, but also congratulations to Amrei, to VCS for those 17 years. Maybe you can share us your story a decade, more than a decade ago. So when you were still 9 years old, Amrei. So I would like to know, I'm sure the viewers would like to know, VCS, like with all the strategies that you rolled out, the services for your that the company offers, how was the environment different then? Was it easy to come up with a business back then?
Well, I'd like to say that starting a business back then was easy because back then I didn't have the knowledge at all. I had zero knowledge in running the business, so I did know the risks. I didn't know what I was getting into. My pen name is the accidental entrepreneur because I just started by accident. I was freelancing as a graphic designer and video editor, and then a client required a receipt. So we had to register the business overnight. Me and my ex, we had to register the business overnight. So what's hard about having a business is sustaining it, growing it, um, facing the daily challenges and the many failures that you need to have before you reach the different levels of success, kahit mga tiny successes. And you have to be super gritty and resilient. Talagang dapat matibay ang dibdib. It's mentally taxing. So, napasubo ako noon, pero if I knew when I started what it took to run a business, I wouldn't have started that early. So ignorance was bliss for me when I
Wow.
started. Sumabak lang talaga ako.
But comparing it to now, do we have more? Kasi now I think we have more mechanisms rather to support the startup industry. In fact, Cubo being present and other academies or like platforms that can one can enroll to just to learn the dynamics of coming up with a business. Back then, I'm sure hindi ganun
Wala.
present yung ganung support, no? So it was more of a trial and error on your part, di ba?
Yes.
So, ganun bang marami bang mga failures along the way, Amrei?
Madami talaga. Back then, there were no groups like Kubo and Idea Space. There was no DTI Go Negosyo offering support and mentoring for businesses. There were only a few tutorials in YouTube. So I had to rely on books, potential mentors pa nga lang. Kailangan talaga hungry ka to seek for knowledge, and talagang we learned by doing and
Right.
sabak. And
Di ba? Tama ba, Darwin? Kasi ngayon, kung ako the younger generation, di ba? They're curious, they want to be entrepreneurs. Some of them would like to be entrepreneurs. How important is preparation? Do we need to prepare? Do we need to study, or just go for it, jump into the pool and learn how to swim?
I think you cannot prepare enough.
Okay.
Kaya many young founders particularly are told na don't quit your day job. Be careful about my company had the luxury of me being a much older founder when we started. So I was already in my 40s, and by then I had built up experience in the private sector. So marami akong natutunan in a less financially risky environment because I was working for someone else before I had to do it on my own. Pero to your point, yes, preparation is super important. You actually even when you think you're prepared, you're not. Because there will be, for example, the pandemic, diba? I'm sure, I mean, for everyone in the panel, the pandemic was not something that even the best of us could have foreseen.
True.
And
Uh-huh.
for the sad reality is for many industries, many companies, they were simply not prepared. I mean, the way they had set up
Mhm.
themselves or ano, hindi talaga po pwedeng to shift fully online. For example, if you're, 'di ba, yun nga, a concert producer. I mean, it's not easy if you own a theater or ano,
Mhm.
maraming nagiging problems talaga.
Correct. And even Darwin, I heard like because of the pandemic, suddenly mga doctors, mga senior doctors, may mga Facebook account na. Yung
Correct.
parang sa biglang for consultation, kailangan meron silang online presence na. So I'm sure sa Ticket to Me, you offer that kind of service. And how did you help your, in a sense, clientele at the same time, those who are in your ecosystem to make sure that they adjust to the situation, to the scenario on hand?
We had a project last year called
Uh-huh.
Project Cockroach. So the
Uh-huh.
reason why it was called Project Cockroach was we were not going to die from the pandemic. It was not an option for us. Kumbaga kahit mag-nuclear holocaust, the company would survive. So we called it the Project Cockroach. It had a number of legs, di ba? So a number
Uh-uh.
of legs that would ensure survival. One leg was the development and the application of our scheduling technology because we were effectively a ticketing platform, di ba? We could schedule people, take money from them, and then connect them to an event.
Right.
We
Uh-huh.
felt that that could be applied to scheduling, to patient scheduling.
Mhm.
So we developed a unit called Doc2Me, which basically schedules patients and doctors and then collects the fees on behalf of the doctor so that it's more efficient. By the time that a doctor shows up to the appointment, alam nung doctor na this patient had already paid for it. So it's not
I see.
wasting anyone's time. But I think going back, ang importante kasi is yun nga, what I was watching a video earlier today just before we got on the call, and one of the characteristics, I guess, of founders like Evan, like Amrei, and I guess many of those listening to us today,
Mhm. Mhm.
kailangan you never give up learning. Mabilis ka talagang, yung you're always trying to learn and you're always trying to adapt. Dahil kasi the moment you slow down, then your competitors will beat you. The bigger players in your market will be able to take advantage of that weakness. So one of the few things that we will always have for us as startups would be our speed, our
That's
agility, and
right.
I think that helped not all of us, but a good number of us weather the pandemic. And then sort of the reason why we're all still here is because of that.
Oo, para you cannot sit on your laurels yet. 'Di ba? You'll never do that. Tama ba, Evan? Like with Taxumo, how important is building that brand? No one is familiar with online taxation system. People will still go to BIR. People will still, you know, deal with government agencies through, paperful, not paperless systems.
Mhm.
And how's that in terms of Taxumo's journey in brand development and the pros and cons of being a startup?
To add to what Darwin was saying a while ago, I think yun nga, the advantage of being a startup is being able to adapt really quickly. Of course, as the organization gets larger, it's harder for them to move around because you need a lot of approvals. It's harder to access senior management, diba? Like who usually signs paperwork. Like us at Taksumo, especially during the pandemic, yun nga, we had to do a lot of pivoting. We launched a service called Taksumo Lifeline, basically which helps small business owners na if they're zero income, because mahirap i-close ang business eh. So you have to but you still need to file like every quarter like the tax forms needed. So we launched that service immediately. Like I think it took us just a few days or like maybe a month to launch that service because we realized that that was what the businesses needed. So yeah, I think that has helped us a lot. Like being agile, being a small team, creating that openness within the company to be one of our key values is actually radical honesty. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to confront na kahit na mas mataas yung level dun sa company mo. Like even my subordinates can basically challenge me and ask like, why did you think that way? And I shouldn't take offense because obviously na if the idea is good enough to stand on its own, then my position doesn't matter. So that has helped us a lot with pivoting, with iteration, basically letting go of ideas na that doesn't make sense anymore. And yeah, it has helped us a lot, definitely.
That's very interesting, Evan. Like like wherever you are in the organization, you can always challenge the CEO. You can always challenge the chief director or what have you in the organizational structure. And is that a normative culture that Taxuma has deliberately done through the years? And does that also apply with BCS, Amrei? Before we go to Amrei, Evan, was it deliberate that should be the culture that we have in this in Taxuma?
It is. So it's one of our core values actually, radical honesty. Na we are able to challenge whoever it is in the organization just to pick their brains and like get their thought processes like out there. Because a lot of things like sometimes like I think it's a very Filipino culture nga na nagkakahiyaan, like sometimes like
Yes.
at the
Uh-huh.
top level, like, oh, may power distance talaga in the Philippines for some reason. And a lot of times na because you're not able to challenge people above you, it's harder to move around. So you always have to like, I guess, walk on eggshells around these people. But in Taksumo, like we realized na okay, we can't operate this way. So we're gonna have radical honesty, but at the same time, like we have to be polite about it. So hindi naman in a rude way. You can challenge, but in a polite, I guess, decent way.
Yes.
People in the
Yes.
organization, but it's important to always challenge, and it will help the organization.
Does that apply to BCS as well, Amray?
Yes, yes. We're very consultative as a company, so we make sure everybody's voices are heard.
Mhm.
We are open with our books, so we have our town hall sessions where we share our financial statements with the team. We share with
Wow.
them our goals for the year, and
Mhm.
it's important for every department to know their contributions to that goal and up to the every single person in the team, ano yung impact ng contribution niya dun sa big goals ng company. So, they know kahit ano yung small things that they're doing, how it contributes to the big picture. And we challenge them to always speak out if they see that there are flaws in the system. Let us know how we can improve it. Lagi kaming merong stop, start, continue, and we always have after action reviews or post-mortems for every project. So, palagi kaming merong changes and room for improvement, and we ensure that everybody's voices are heard and valued.
I mean, that's really nice to hear, Amber, because I guess when we talk about agility, it comes with it empowerment, no? Like if for one to move quickly, you should be able to understand exactly what ideas are out there, what possible solutions can be adopted by the company. And I'd like to know, Darwin, for Ticket to Me, how do you empower your employees? Uh, I'm not sure if how big is your workforce at the moment? Is it growing, and how do you empower them?
So we're the Ticket to Me organization is fairly small. So but what I think ang importante kasi sa organizations when you talk of empowerment is you need to create an environment where they can safely be making decisions. Um, Kumbaga yung psychological safety is important for employees to grow and to take the calculated risks that you need them to be taking. Otherwise kasi, as a founder or as a leader of an organization or as a leader of the team, you will have to be making those decisions for them. 'Di ba? And then parang ano sila,
Mhm.
extension lang, parang hands and legs lang, robots lang yan. And if that's the organization that you have, I don't think it's an organization that will survive very long. So I think psychological safety, and I guess which is why conversations like what we're having now is
Right.
important. 'Di ba? Parang for us, when you feel safe, when you feel included, when you feel supported, 'di ba? Whatever your role is, whatever your background is, whoever you are, then you will give the company a chance, and chances are you will excel. So I think yun yung what to me employee empowerment should look like.
Correct. Si Darwin mentioned all these key terms na. I'm moving to another area which is the reason why we're having this conversation, precisely for pride, precisely to highlight what is inclusion, what is diversity in the workplace. And I'd like to ask Evan, and I mean all three of you, how important is diversity when it comes to your workplace, and when it comes to the business, and how are you moving towards inclusion to ensure that everyone feels a sense of belongingness, as we call that acceptance. Amrei,
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last line that you said?
like how important is diversity in
Ayan.
the workplace, and how are you how are you developing inclusion or the sense of belongingness in VCS?
Mhm. Actually, very funny, Ron, no? Because we started na majority are LGBT.
Oh, wow.
So, so
Barkada
parang
ba to?
opposite. Parang siyang opposite. I think parang siyang opposite kasi we started na majority are LGBT.
Uh-huh.
Majority are from a small group of theater friends and pare-pareho kami ng school. So we weren't that inclusive when we started even though we were LGBT. So para sa amin kasi diversity is very important because we are a creative solutions company and we have clients who have many different target market segments. And to represent those target market segments insights, kailangan meron din kaming diversity within the team. So we cannot think in the same way. So when we started hiring people who we do not know, hiring people from different schools, different, meron silang different ways of thinking, coming from different backgrounds, not necessarily having a background sa advertising, iba-ibang industries din. Yung diversity of thought, it's very important for us to become innovative. Kasi kailangan binavalue ng isang organisasyon yung different perspectives and yung conflict, pero it's a healthy conflict. Parang diamonds, how diamonds are made of, di ba? Kailangan may friction and conflict. So we value that. Importante yung merong mga different ideas, different perspectives, and nanggagaling yun sa diversity din sa team. Diversity of ideas, diversity ng ways of thinking.
That's
So we
right.
embrace that.
Oo nga. Um, the culture itself is very much important. Evan, yung diversity for Taxumo, is it a felt reality for the company, or is it something that Taxumo is still working on?
I would say it is. I think that one of the things na we've been very, very good at is encouraging diversity in the company. But more than diversity, I like what we were discussing, I guess, like a few webinars ago about inclusion, because that's what we've been actively working on, like making sure that everyone feels included in the conversation. To Amri's point and about diversity nga rin, one of the things that I like which our CEO said is nobody has a monopoly of ideas, and essentially like being diverse is ensuring that the company is strong because like, diverse ideas come in, we're able to radically challenge everything, ensure that we only keep the ones that help the company and like let go of the things that don't really help like the marketplace of ideas. So that's one of the things that we've been actively working on, like ensuring that the environment, that culture within the company exists. And I'm proud to say that yeah, I mean that's what we've been actively working on since day one.
Thank you, Evan. Can we highlight one, two, or three concrete actions which your company has done towards inclusion? And I'm asking this because I'd like our listeners to be able to pick up, possible ways that they can they can do in their companies, or perhaps they can adopt as CEO or founders of their startups, that diversity and inclusion are actually not too out there. You can easily do it. It's tangible. You can feel it. And we'd like to debunk that myth. Na, no, we'd rather not focus on diversity inclusion yet. We'd rather focus on our bottom line, our marketing strategies, etc. Can you share with us like one, two, or three action points that you've done to ensure diversity happens in the business? Darwin, gusto mo umpisahan?
Sige. It's a difficult question only because one, I am not an expert. I have never parang I don't know if I am qualified to be speaking about parang diversity or inclusion initiatives. Apart from the fact that I'm a member of the LGBT community, that's the only parang the only tangible claim that I think make. Pero a number of things, and some of the answers might surprise, I guess, our listeners. Number one, even before the pandemic, we had a 4-day work work week, and then you only had to come to the office 4 days. Now with the pandemic, we shifted fully remote. So you
Oh,
are no
wow.
longer required. We don't even keep an office anymore. So I
Wow.
think, and people don't necessarily label or look at it as an inclusion exercise, but it is, because then people from whatever background, from whatever type of personal circumstance, you're a working mom with kids that you need to take care of because you do not have other people that you can ask to support, you will be able to work for Ticket to Me. Whether you're, alam mo yun, at whatever, kumbaga, whatever your background or your condition, those kinds of working arrangements really help inclusion. I think, again, hindi ako expert, but in my mind, that's how I see it. The other one is because of the work that we do. So we have one foot in media, diba? So we have one foot in content production. We're not like Sina Amrei that we are experts, but we do tell stories. So
Right.
in my life as the founder of Ticket to Me, we produced stories like Ang Pagdadalaga ni Maximo Oliveros, the musical. So Maxi, the musical, we produced that many, many years ago. You know the story of this little gay boy who was raised by a family of street thugs who falls in love with an idealistic policeman. And then last year, we produced a boys' love series called Boys Lockdown. So again, stories that show people that there are different kinds. I mean, they're beautiful stories composed of different kinds of people, and they're as important as the other stories that we've been raised watching or that we were more familiar reading. So I think those are the two things. So one is, as a company, we've always been open, and we actually are very aggressive in helping tell stories that we find powerful, regardless of the content, diba? The second one is really, we've been very creative in the adoption of work arrangements. So we have an unlimited leave policy. So for example, you can take as many vacations as you want, as long as you get approval from your manager and you get the work done. So mga
Wow.
ganun na, so I mean, it could work because we're small. Some people might say that that's the case, but I would like to argue and say it works because we have good people. We have teammates who are absolutely responsible and who care about the company, and I think that's a
Yes.
requirement for it to be successful.
That's true. I think, Darwin, that's also important. Like the stories that you choose as a company, the products that you produce, even if they're, if you showcase LGBT stories, for example, it helps in the diversity and inclusion advocacy. And we may say we're not all experts, but we're happy that you're a proud member of the community. Through Ticket to Me, also you show us, like, a very positive direction as a probability for any member of the community to grow and develop in terms of its personal or professional career. Amrei, ikaw, alam ko ang BCS very creative sa mga inclusion and diversity activities, di ba? Yung mga, lalo na, you said you started na grupo kayo ng mga LGBT rin, you're like a group na magkakabarkada. Paano nyo, anong mga steps, 1, 2, 3 steps that you've done through the years?
Through the years, before we were affiliated with a lot of LGBT art groups because we are a group of mga artists. So we were part of Lunduyan ng Sining. We also had mga lesbian Monday nights in Magnet Katipunan.
Wow.
May mga ganun before when we were started. When we were starting. Pero ano yun hindi siya formal na steps talaga ng company. It's just yung activities ng mga members of the company. When we were starting, we were very active sa LGBT art scene before. So now, we make it a point that we are recruiting for diversity. We are always proud that we are LGBT-led and LGBT-owned. Sa onboarding sessions pa lang, we already part na rin ng ng orientation and ng mga talks sa mga potential applicants, we already come out to them. Dapat alam nila ito yung culture namin, ito kami, lesbians yung leaders dito. And importante na we are always coming out. Halimbawa, merong mga opportunities where our voices could be heard. For example, we get invited to a talk. Ito yung pinaka-fulfilling na moment for me before. I started coming out when I gave a talk to 3,000 students sa isang coliseum. I announced that I'm an out and proud lesbian, and I asked them to give a shout out. Sino dito yung part of the community? And grabe, nag-roar yung...
Wow, ang galing.
Because after that moment, every time I give talks, every time our company is invited, we see to it na we come out, we tell them that we're out and proud. Tas, maraming mga moments na mga nagme-message sa akin, they are happy that they felt visible, they felt represented. Kasi kulang na kulang tayo sa role model companies or role model business leaders that they can look up to na, oh, okay, they are thriving and I can be like them in the future, yung mga ganon. Kasi when growing up, diba, it's kulang tayo sa representation. All we see in media are yung mga tomboys, tapos
Yes.
mag-aasawa din after, or yung
True,
mga
true.
gays as parloristas. So why can't there be aspirational role models na within the LGBTQ community? So every chance that we get to communicate that and have visibility, we take it. And
That's
of course, education, we have SOGI sessions. June na pala ngayon, kailangan regular yung SOGI sessions sa company. So, kailangan na namin mag-update ng SOGI namin. And like what I said kanina, we always need to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. So, inclusion is not a natural consequence of diversity. You can be a diverse company, but having a diverse team of talent doesn't mean that everyone feels welcome or valued. So we need to
Correct.
ensure that.
Correct. I'll go to that visibility part later on, but let's hear from Evan first. Like 1, 2 items that Taxumo has done to ensure that inclusivity is felt in in the company.
So it's actually embedded in our employee handbook. Now we have a very specific non-discrimination policy. You cannot discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual characteristics. So that's one, and we communicate that to everyone. Number two would be same with what Amrei said, visibility. I am an out gay man in the company. We've never, I guess, glossed over the diverse aspects of our company. So I'm an out gay man who's one of the co-founders. One of our co-founders is also female, so that's very active in the, I guess, female leaders spaces. So those things ensuring that visibility is present in the company, and also we've been actively also highlighting specific things in the company. Like recently, we before parang when we were implementing trying to figure out the gender identity of our I guess users. Na one of the questions one of our engineers brought up to me is how do we ensure that this is friendly towards the LGBT plus community, and that's when we implemented Mac. So you can actually select your female, or non-binary, so just to make sure that that information is not denied, because obviously it's easy to just say male female, but yun nga, now we want to ensure na everyone feels included. Now we are not erasing any identities, especially for our users and within the organization itself. So I would say those are top level the things that could be used to think of, but I could maybe bring up a bit more later on. So remember everything that we've done with basically in the company.
That's right, Evan. I think so. There was no hesitation at the start. You're already out and proud founders. Yeah, there was no way you were trying to cover up and say, "No, I'm just a founder. I'm an entrepreneur. Let's not talk about my gender identity." Is that correct?
Not
Siguro,
for my
That's
Ako-
Darwin. Go.
siguro it was a different journey for me kasi because I am a lawyer. And when I started working for a law firm, and I wasn't out to, I mean, a larger group of people. And in fact, I remember being told pa na parang be careful din. I mean, it was said in good faith. Pero sabi parang be careful about being too open because you might actually hurt your chances of becoming a successful
Wow.
lawyer or
Oh
being
my.
promoted because it depends. It really depends. But that's why by the time I started my own thing, I was pretty secure in myself. Yung mga ganun eh. And then that's, I guess, given me a different take and has created a different parang entry point for our own organization, which may not be the same for other startup founders, particularly if you're starting out much younger. Na parang that journey of building your startup happens alongside your own personal journey as well. So I could imagine how that would be more complicated for many of our young leaders, young startup founders also.
Yeah, but that's right. In the startup industry, you talking to other companies, you talking to other young founders, for example, how felt is LGBT? How do we feel the LGBT presence rather in this sector, in this industry? Marami bang out and proud na LGBT founders dyan? Or hindi pa rin? We're not even halfway through visibility, halfway through identifying more LGBT champions. Kulang pa ba yung ginagawa para makita? Or in your own personal experience, we're too far away from having a startup industry that's totally inclusive and diverse through the presence of LGBT leaders. What do you say about that, Amrei?
I'd like to go back to your first question first a while ago. If I was already out and proud from the start of my my career. Actually, it was no matter how safe I felt inside my my company in our office. It's different when I am with my clients. There were a lot of times when it's I question myself, should I really show them who I really am? And there were a lot of discomfort because
True.
sometimes they're asking, "Are you married? May kids ka ba?" Mga ganyan. Tapos I am not sure if I should open up and say that I have a partner. I have a life partner who's a woman for 10 years. We have no kids. I'm lesbian. Blah blah blah. So especially when you're dealing with clients who's, for example, in banking and finance, so you don't know how to present yourself. So it has become a challenge for me. But that was yung first part nung journey ko. But now I'm not afraid if you don't accept me. I will educate you. Ganun na lang. So I tell them straight na I have a partner. And
That's right.
I'm a lesbian. I'm with the community. So kung hindi nila alam yung Soji, I educate them. And the more na I'm doubting if they will accept me, uh, the more na natatakot ako. Pero when I became confident, I've accepted na, bahala kayo, I don't care. This is me, accept me or not. Open naman pala yung mga tao. And nasa sa akin pala yun, how I carry myself. And kung open ako to educate them and I'm not too hard about myself. If I'm just proud and confident, wala naman
Oo.
palang nagiging problema.
Siguro ano lang, kailangan maumpisahan lang kasi nga
Yeah.
we're transitioning from a very traditional, workplace culture to now that we have, Kaya ang question ko is, do we see more out and proud LGBT founders there in the startup industry, in the startup sector? Evan, ikaw with your interaction, ganun ba? Marami kang nakikita na, teka lang, wow, they're very lucky na they don't care. I mean, if whatever identity they have, they can be a transgender person, and they can also be a CEO of a company. And do you get to see these people, our own, more and more in the industry?
I would say now we definitely have some LGBT plus people in the startup industry, but as not I don't know of any research about the basically numbers of LGBT plus people in the startup sector in the fintech specifically, like where I'm operating in. So yeah, like I guess it's the same thing with the wider society. Now we keep on saying na, oh, we're present, we're here, like we're in leadership positions. But like the question always in my head is how many are we? And like what are our problems? Like what problems do we need to address? Why are those problems not being addressed? So to your point, I guess like me, Amrei, Darwin being in this sector, yes, there are people like us. The LGBT plus community exists because we are in society. But um, what you're not measuring, you can't fix, or what problems you're not measuring, you can't fix, and that's the question that's in my head right now. Like we don't have data, we don't have research, we don't have information.
Yeah.
So the question is why.
Correct. Actually, Ron, let me just add. The other problem, kasi especially when you're starting out, so for startup founders, your problems are super basic.
Correct.
Now you are not in positions like where Amre is at or where Evan is at, where you can be more, where you attend interviews like this, or where you participate in fora, where you can attend meetings. The first or the
Correct.
earliest days of your startup, you're worried about building your product, fine tuning your service, finding your customers. So you're really locked into that, alam mo yun, parang stage. You're locked by the stage you're at. And therefore, it may not be due to a hesitation on their part to say who they are. Pero yun lang, parang it's just in the hierarchy of problems you need to solve. Teka lang, I need to get this off the ground first. Then I will worry about the others.
Oo. Pero Darwin, kasi that's also I don't know, on the flip side of it is we've heard that also from major companies, major corporations saying, we don't care about LGBT or diversity yet because we're still focusing on procurement, we're focusing on our bottom line, we're focusing on these things. So is it difficult to have a parallel track in that sense na at the start, I mean, we're not talking about just webinars and all, like, making sure at the start that it's, I'm an out and proud CEO. I'll make sure that in company onboarding, we will highlight the non-discriminatory aspect of the workplace. We will make sure that we respect each other. Ideas can be shared at whatever level you're in. So siguro lang yun yung magiging challenge din. But I understand, Darwin, that can also be tricky dahil may mga certain basics na kailangan ma-address nga ng mga startups. Tama ba?
I think just for example, speaking from me lang in the
Yeah.
beginning. So by the time I started my startup, I was out. Alam mo yun, it wasn't an issue for me.
Secure
It was
na.
yes, it was something that my employees knew about, my clients knew
Yeah.
about. It helped that we were starting out in the theater and entertainment space where 'di ba, parang where there's, I guess, where there's more work done in inclusion and diversity. Pero to be completely honest, in terms of yung mga onboarding namin, walang ganun eh. We didn't have I guess, and that's why I'm always careful to say that that we know these things. We recognize in Ticket to Me that we have a lot to learn. We know that this is an ongoing process of education, re-education, so that we become more inclusive, we listen more, we're more diverse, and we learn from the people who are experts at the field, so that we create yun nga, ultimately an organization that is safe and where people are know that they can be who themselves in order to be successful.
That's right. I go back to Evan, yung sa company policy. It's explicitly mentioned there. What if someone violates it? Are there penalties? Will you be imposing penalties for violations made?
Yes, there are disciplinary actions and also avenues for redress for employees who feel that, for example, they've been harassed within the company because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. So we have very specific guidelines on that within our employee handbook. So I think it stands to reason naman na, of course, like when you say something, like,
Uh-huh.
it has to be like a corresponding penalty if someone doesn't follow the rules, right? So yes, I would say.
Siguro syempre mas maganda iwasan yung penalty if at the start
Yeah.
klaro rin sa kanila ano yung kultura that you want to develop in the company. Amrei,
Yes.
ikaw, may mga ganung penalties ba sa company ng DCS or you love all employees, you love the workforce, pero pag nagkamali sila, konting tapik lang or I mean how do you change that
We're
behavior kung
very
may
we're
violation?
we're very hands-on, and that was uh, we're very conscious about how everyone feels. Kung meron bang na-violate sa yung what do you call this? Halimbawa, meron kaming party. Tapos merong pa-games, and there are guide questions dun sa games. Pati yun, siniscreen pa namin, let's make sure na walang ma-offend dun sa guide questions, anything, or trivia na gagawin ninyo, anything that is about you, okay lang yun. Pero kung may damay na iba and mapuput in jeopardy yung kanilang, yung mga ganon. Importante na na walang anyone na ma-feel violated and they feel na unsafe to become who they are and to express kung ano man yung unique self nila.
Which I think is essential because kadalasan, if you're say for example a trans person, you're very much sensitive, di ba? Sa ka-workplace mo, katrabaho mo. Every time you go to the office, gusto ba nila to feel like, I don't want to go to work anymore. My God, every day I get insulted, or the what they call is the microaggressions. Is something that the LGBT community has been experiencing for the past years. And Darwin, ikaw yung gaano kahalaga sa iyo ang non-violation of acceptance of belongingness? Talaga ba makakatikim sila sa iyo? Makakarinig ba sila sa iyo? Klarong-klaro ba 'yon?
I think kasi the first duty of us as founders and as leaders of business is to actually create a culture that will not be hospitable to that kind of behavior. Pag umabot ka kasi sa ganung behavior, then it could be na you've already missed the boat. Kumbaga meron ka ng pinayagan doon sa kultura ng organisasyon mo that led to that kind of behavior, whether it's a microaggression or harassment or whatever it is that make people feel uncomfortable. So I think I would rather focus. Paano kasi pag maliit na organization, of course, we have memos, we have disciplinary processes like all other organizations. Pero ang mas importante is really at the beginning, onboarding pa lang, in the way you conduct your meetings, in the way leaders walk their talk, in the way people fulfill their commitments to each other. Doon, yun yung building blocks of a corporate culture or an organizational culture that will either, parang sometimes kasi, if your culture is strong enough, they know, people adjust and then adapt. They learn, they perform, and they behave according to what the culture rewards. But if they see kasi na it's a macho culture, it's a misogynistic culture, mabastos, ganyan, and then you let it, di ba, even in the jokes, ganyan, then it can escalate. But if you start correctly, if you create an environment that's respectful of the differences, ganyan, and then they see it, they see you walking that talk, rewarding that kind of behavior over others, then you are, I think, in a much better place as you build your organization, your startup.
I think siguro if I can also share, like in the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, we've identified a few action points, di ba? Na ano nga ba yung actionable steps to make sure that the company is accepting, the company is inclusive, and klarong-klaro rin sa atin na we have to make sure that we explicitly mention non-discrimination in the workplace. That's something that needs to be written, that needs to be said, that needs to be given during the orientation. Second, di ba, we always say na kailangan may education aspect. Amrei mentioned this. Education is very much important. And it's an education that is sustained. That the information has to be continuously inculcated into the minds of the employees and the management likewise. And third, we also highlight the importance of benefits. I'd like to also get into that. The benefits, equal benefits for same-sex spouse. I know it's not legally recognized in the country, like same-sex partnership, but companies these days have been innovating. I think startups can also explore that innovation in terms of extension of benefits, irregardless of who your partner is, irregardless whether that's legally recognized because you're married in the church or you're not married, but you're just cohabit. You are co-partners in your home. And fourth, we also highlight in the chamber, di ba, dapat specific to the transgender group, perhaps access to facilities, access to not gender neutral facilities, or even the medical assistance or that can be given to them will go a long way. And lastly, eto, I'd like to ask all of you this. Yung fifth part ng sinasabi ng LGBT Chamber on actionable points is for inclusion is that when you do your external relations through your advertising, marketing, etc., you have to make sure that you walk the talk. You have to make sure that you're not just supporting, you're not just providing brands for the sake of hitting, the LGBT market. You're not just bringing in ambassadors because they're kilala, but you're making sure that these brands, these ambassadors are also uh, allies of the community. How important is this for startups? Now that we're celebrating Pride Month, how should startups embrace the embrace rather the movement away from tokenism, di ba? Evan, sa Taxumo, nag-hire ba kayo ng mga ambassadors na anti-LGBT pala?
Not that I know of. So far, like I the ones that I've actively reached out to as chief marketing officer, I know that are very open, inclusive, but definitely if ever in the future they suddenly come out as homophobic pala or like are against trans people, would have controversial issues, like, we would definitely let them go. But so far I don't know of anyone that we've reached out to. We've been very active naman, especially I think being a visible co-founder who is gay, and like it really, I guess, hands on with a lot of things in the marketing side of things. They would know that, okay, they would, I guess, immediately not decide to partner with us if they find out I'm gay.
Correct. Correct. Then, Darwin, ikaw, sa Ticket to Me, yung Boy Love series nyo last year, yung mga actors nyo, yung mga
Yes.
sponsors nyo, paano mo pinipili yun to make sure that they're inclusive, na hindi
Well,
sila anti-LGBT?
well, una in the choice of material pa lang kasi it will scare away people who don't want to be associated with the LGBT community. So that sort of forms a filter. We don't have a lot of resources to hire endorsers or ambassadors, but I think ang first duty kasi namin is to run our business well, so that we serve as good role models to other young members of the community. Now, they see, so you can be a successful startup founder, or you can have, we're not there yet, but that you can be, that they can model their path or their career plans after people like Evan, like Amrei, like you, so that they in turn parang are able to sort of deal with all of these pressures that we face as we grow
Right.
up. So I think yun yung first, more than anything else. Tama naman kasi there was an insight here, diba, that they said na hiring can be a good place. Na paano kasi when you're at the startup stage, ang hirap talaga eh. Parang you're overwhelmed. It's like
True.
you're only one step away from drowning every time. So perhaps at the hiring stage, you already make diversity and inclusion a conversation topic. Ang hirap lang dahil lalo na kapag hindi ka marunong and you don't have resources like the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce or Kubo, sometimes ang informal kasi niya lahat eh. So it's not out of a lack of desire, but it's really more the absence of the knowledge that you need to have in order to do it well.
Admittedly, Darwin, we still have a lot of companies out there naman na struggling and trying to figure out ano ba yung SOG, SC, trying to understand what is diversity, equality, and inclusion. That's really true. And I'd like to think that they're honest in terms of their journey towards diversity and inclusion. And I guess a key point there is to make sure that you can always work with other organizations. You can also work with other individuals. As you said, running a business, you don't know everything all at the same time. You always need to learn. It's a continuous, learning phase. Amrei, ang VCS ba gano'n na very conscious that the products that you give out, the sponsors, even your suppliers should also be LGBT friendly or allies.
We're very particular with that and with our values. Like for example, if there are companies that we think violate or against our values, we do our research and then we talk amongst ourselves. Should we pitch here? Kasi medyo merong article about this company na ganito. So pero we double check the facts and data naman. But yun, we that's why we also don't have political clients as well. So we want to avoid those. And going back to what you said about marketing to LGBTs, we also have yung inclusive marketing best practices. Kasi maraming mga mga pink baiting, mga tokenism. So it's very
True.
important that if you are marketing to LGBT people, you should, number one, you should counter stereotypes. So you go against a standardized image that represents an oversimplified opinion or yung prejudiced attitude or uncritical judgment. And when you market to LGBTs, kailangan you segment pa the segments kasi um, LGBT people are not the same. Hindi sila homogeneous bunch with the same
Right.
wants, same needs and spending habits. Iba-iba pa yung mga klase niyan eh. So, kailangan more segmentation pa, deeper segmentation to LGBTs. And then, importante that we share stories reflecting positive realities. Kulang na kulang tayo sa ganyan kasi ang daming representations of LGBT na mga sad stories, very tragic, may mga namamatay. So, we need more stories that reflect positive realities and kailangan inspiring, authentic, and meaningful. And kasi yung campaigns devised specifically to sell to the LGBT for business goals, halata yon versus if you are ensuring yung campaigns are inclusive and really representative of LGBT people and they are really telling their stories. And syempre, as a brand, you need to practice what you preach.
Correct.
Yung minention mo kanina na 5-point agenda being promoted by the chamber, at least, di ba, kailangan pinapractice yun before you market to LGBT people.
How intelligent are the consumers now when it comes to pink baiting, when it comes to LGBT tokenism? Are consumers intelligent and they can see through brands na gusto lang akong bentahan nito, gusto lang akong i-capture nito kasi may rainbow print sa damit at sa sapatos. Intelligent na ba ang consumers right now? Would like to
Yes,
answer
yes.
that. Andre, go.
Yes, they are. Kasi there are a lot of mga deep, authentic stories. Mararamdaman mo naman yun eh. Especially if you belong to the community, you can immediately feel or know if the brand is sincere or not. And there are studies that show na the brands getting it right are those that are approaching everything they do with an inclusive lens, with equality and diversity at the heart of their work. And meron talagang increase in brand loyalty amongst the LGBT community. And I think that 69% of LGBT respondents say that they enjoy inspirational LGBT themed na advertising. So there's positive response among the community if a brand is authentic and genuine.
Everika, what can you say about that? Consumer intelligence against tokenism, against pink baiting.
I don't know about being smarter because obviously we still see a lot of companies na I don't know if they're just underestimating the
Yeah.
intelligence of consumers. But what I do know is that a lot of we're more conscious, like the community, especially here in the Philippines, are more conscious and are really going beyond just awareness, like just promoting. Because before, I think like 5, 10 years before, we were happy just to see like a gay couple being used in marketing during Pride Month. But now, like we're very critical. Na okay, so you used a gay couple influencer in your advertising, but you also support a politician who's anti-LGBT the
True.
social equity law. So we're more critical about these of pink capitalism, rainbow capitalism. We're more critical of these things, and it helps na, I guess, being exposed to like having the internet available now. We're easily like fact checking things, like things that the brand has said versus what the brand is doing. So we're getting there definitely, and yun nga na brands should really watch out.
Correct. Darwin, ikaw, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm not an expert and it's not my area of expertise. But ako, I think the more stories the more LGBT stories we get out there, I think it really helps push the needle in the right direction. Because yun nga, sinasabi ni Amrei, then people know what's more authentic. And then they see all types of these beautiful stories and then see past the propaganda. It's not always easy to make that distinction if you don't have enough stories to begin with, diba? If you don't have enough representatives, if you don't have enough role models. So the more stories, the more representatives, the more role models, I think the better it is for our community.
I'd like to link that to a question in one of in our comment box, no? So more stories, more representation, more positive things out there, but are we also looking at diversity beyond gender and race? Are we looking at diversity beyond colors, beyond your nationality, beyond your SOGI, so sexual orientation, gender identity? What will be the new frontiers, if ever, of diversity beyond these things? Anyone would like to answer that? Amrei, ikaw. Volunteer na kita.
I think,
Go.
well, being a small company, we can't be a diverse bunch. Siyempre, for startups, kunyari, you're just 10 people or 5 people. You can't have representation of all your different. If you're a small company, you start with neurodiversity or diversity of thought, diversity of thinking. But yun nga, hindi lang siya limited to gender and race. There's ethnicity, there's age, religion, cultural backgrounds, language, education. Um, there are people who are also differently abled. So, basta iba-ibang klaseng differences. It's not just limited to race and gender. You can start with different ways of thinking, different
Okay,
ways of viewing the world, and different ways of solving problems.
that's true. Evan, what's the future out there when it comes to diversity? Are we do we need to tap more areas beyond gender and race?
um, I'm not an expert, I would say, but I like numbers, I like data, I like research,
Yeah.
I like reading about those things. I would say that, I guess, going back again to what we were talking about, I think it's more important now we focus on inclusion. This is something that Angel, like one of our fellow board members, has highlighted before about ensuring inclusion over diversity, because I think when you just focus on diversity, it can lead to tokenism. Na parang okay, like parang okay, we need like a black gay man. Okay, so let's tick that box. Or we need like uh Latina or like Filipino, like lesbian woman in the company. So parang you tick that box. But
Hire one.
di ba, na parang
Correct.
do you, question is, once you tick the boxes, do you create a space where they feel included? Do you create a space where people can actually, yun nga, like one of our values is radical honesty and like being able to challenge everyone. You create a space where people from different backgrounds, from diverse backgrounds, are able to challenge ideas within the company. So I guess like that's a more important discussion that we have now, because yun nga, as a startup, it would be hard for us to fill all the boxes when it comes to diversity. Like what Amri was saying, di ba? Na dahil maliit kami yung company right now, na we won't be as diverse. But what we can ensure at this stage is that we include everyone and we are able to create a space where every idea is valid as long as you're able to defend it. So that I would say is I guess like the future.
That's true. No, one thing we've learned to this afternoon, I think, it's not an excuse that you're small. It's not an excuse that you're just a startup for you to be diverse and to be inclusive in your workplace. No? I think Darwin, Amrei, Evan will agree on this one. Kasi again, we don't want excuses when it comes to people being accepted in the workplace, right? And at whatever level of economic development or sorry, company development you're in, you can be a micro enterprise, a small, medium enterprise. There's no excuse, di ba? That you have to make sure that it's people centered. You have to make sure that you slowly put in place the right policies, mechanisms, and perhaps the physical infrastructure to make that sense of belongingness for everybody in the company. Siguro, before we wrap up, maybe you can have a final message to our viewers as we end Pride Month celebration. I know it's not the end for the chamber. It's not the end because we want Pride to be celebrated from January 1 to December 31. Pride every day, diba? And what do you if you have one challenge to all those companies, founders out there listening to us or who'll be able to watch this recording, what is that challenge you'd like to tell them and or to ask them? Amre?
Um, I challenge everyone to get to know to educate themselves to get to know more about Soji, to not just become a diverse company, but more importantly, practice inclusion. Um, the uniqueness of each individual in your company is what would make your company great. So embrace everyone's uniqueness. It's each and everyone's differences which join forces. It would make the organization more powerful than ever. So practice inclusion and don't just become a diverse company. Educate yourselves on safety.
Perfect. Thank you, Amre. How about Darwin? What's your challenge to companies out there?
So siguro I want to talk to young LGBT founders or young LGBT business people who are thinking of becoming founders. Don't be afraid. I think, of course, it's going to be a difficult ride, a challenging, sometimes exhausting, sometimes frustrating ride, but it's definitely fulfilling. Like any other, parang we have to show up kasi we have to stake our claim, we have to be successful, and we need to be able to help others, di ba? Parang by doing well for ourselves, for our organization, we will be in better positions to help others and in education, in giving opportunities. So wag kang matakot. Alam mo yun, parang yes, it's a long battle and we've been fighting the battle a long time, but we have to build on what has been won and we have to keep doing it.
Thank you, Darwin. That's so nice. I mean, talk to the younger generation. Evan, ikaw, what do you challenge people out there in terms of the advocacy, in terms of startup journey, so with pride in mind?
Sure. I guess I'm remembering now what our late chair was saying during his talks, like what Brian has been saying for a lot of like discussions on DEI. He mentioned, I remember very clearly, like in one ADB talk na he led, he said that in a study, less than 50% of the next generation will identify as straight. So I guess a challenge for all businesses, whether you're small, you're medium sized, or you're a large corporation, is how are we preparing for that future? How are we preparing for a future where people are more diverse? And especially with the internet, that we see a lot of voices coming up. So how do we prepare for that? And I guess like to Amri's point nga rin, and what I've been saying as well, how do we ensure that everyone is included in that future? Na of course, like in the tech industry, like we've been hearing about stories that the algorithms are reinforcing biases. So how do we ensure that these voices are included in the future that we're building? And that's really the challenge that we all must face in the coming years.
That's true. It's an authentic challenge that demands an authentic action. So, salamat Evan, salamat Darwin, salamat Amrei, and with that, we'll pass the mic to Eunice and make perhaps for the last few reminders. And again, we'd like to thank everybody for listening to us, and I hope nag-enjoy kayo sa discussion from the LGBT Chamber side, Darwin from Ticket to Me, Evan, Taksumo, and Amrei VCS. Eunice, kamusta?
Hi. Thank you everyone for such a fantastic panel. I've just been like taking notes and listening. Also, I'd like to be mentored by everyone on this panel. Parang ang dami ko natutunan, not just about your individual experiences as LGBTQ plus people in the startup and the creative spaces, but just as business leaders as well.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for such an enlightening panel. Before I move to the last part of the program, I just want to take this opportunity to like take a photo with the entire
Ah,
panel so that we don't forget.
sure.
Sure.
So I want to ask if my colleagues would be taking that photo or if you need me to take that screenshot na rin. So I guess we'll do one, two, three. I'll take a screenshot. All right. I think they're covered. Ayan, it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you also,
Ayan.
Eunice, sa mga nag-comment pala, sila Rainy, Dominic, and all. They're very actively asking questions. And don't worry, we're not going away, you know?
Yes.
Nandito lang si Darwin, si Evan, si Amri. Nandito rin lang din ng LGBT Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, so I guess that ties into parang the next part of the program. I just want to close this out with a couple of reminders, but also I just want to give the floor to you, Ron, to talk about something that you actually mentioned in the panel, which is Pride every day, and to tell us
Mhm.
more about the work that the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce is doing. So,
Thank,
Ron?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eunice. I guess I just like to take this opportunity. We in the LGBT Chamber of Commerce would like to remind companies to make sure that you commit to and celebrate Pride every day. You know, it's something that is very much important to us. It is not. It doesn't happen only in June. Pride should be celebrated from January 1 to December 31. And please, I think I've mentioned some of the action points that we highlight in the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. We thank you, Kubo, for giving us this opportunity. And as we believe in partnership, as we believe in people working together, hand in hand, in making sure that our business environment will always be diverse and inclusive for everybody. So that's what we do in the chamber. And if you can quickly just show the next slide. You can catch us. You can look for more information about the chamber to our website www.lgbtchamberph.org, or you can also reach us through the next slide, our Facebook account at LGBT Chamber, Instagram at LGBTPH, or you can email us lgbtph.secretariat@gmail.com. So please feel free to reach out to us. We in the chamber is open. We are open to all LGBT founders, owners, and allies. Or if you're just starting your journey in DEI, we're also here to help you. So just a side commercial then, next slide. Please, if you're free tonight at 9 o'clock in the evening, nine evening, we'll be having this conversation on how we recover inclusively in partnership with the chamber's major partner from Washington D.C., Center for International Private Enterprise, and the FEDN. So I'll be talking to this panel later, and I hope you can join us. Just click on the link. You can also look at the Facebook page of the Center for International Private Enterprise. That's it, Eunice. Maraming salamat, and again, we're very much happy to have the panelists and also inviting the chamber to partake in this month-long Pride celebration for the community in general.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron. So as Ron mentioned, so it's not Pride is not just one day or one month. We want to celebrate inclusion, diversity, and equality, not just in June, but in every day of every month of every year. And this is something that is crucial for us and something that we really do believe in. So we want to thank Amri, Darwin, Evan, and Ron for participating in this afternoon's panel discussion. So, to wrap up our Kulitan for this afternoon, I just wanted to share a couple of reminders from the Cuba team. So, team, next slide. So yes, so if you're just joining us, if you're late to the Kulitan, welcome. We just wanted to remind you that we have a couple of workshops and events happening in a couple of days and in July that are crucial for startup founders. Uh, regardless of your stage or industry, we have a couple of resources that might be helpful to you. So one of these resources is the upcoming Facebook Boost workshop, which is happening on July 1, 2021 on a Thursday. That's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So this is exclusive to the Kubo community startups. So please sign up. You only have a couple of days left to go. You don't want to miss this particular event. And then next up, also, if you've been curious about calibers and next page story, and you want to apply to Y Combinator, please put this on your calendar. July 21st, Wednesday, from 3 to 4:30 p.m. We do have a How to Apply to Y Combinator workshop that we are organizing in partnership with AWS. And then also, if you missed our info session yesterday, we do actually have an upcoming acceleration program in partnership with Microsoft called Acceleration, Disrupting Industries, Scaling B2B Startups. So this is open to startups developing enterprise solutions to digitize businesses in the Philippines. The applications are open. You can apply all the way until July 23rd, 2021. So please make sure that you start those applications and you send them early. You only have a couple of weeks left. So don't forget to take advantage of this particular opportunity. And then also closing tomorrow for startups in the tourism, travel, and aviation space. There's the Singapore Airlines App Challenge. Their startup track is closing tomorrow, so you have only a couple of hours left to submit your entry. It's the leading digital innovation challenge for the travel and aviation industry. So you don't want to miss this particular opportunity if you're a startup in that space. Please apply. You still have a couple of hours left. Next up, as mentioned earlier, we are a community partner for the She Loves Tech Startup Competition. It's the world's largest startup competition for women in technology. If you are a female founder or even a male founder addressing women-specific concerns, please do register by July 31, 2021. You can check out more details at the link that you can see in the PubMat, which is apply.shelovestech.org. So that's another wonderful opportunity for the startup founders out there. Please do take advantage of it. And then lastly, we always hold these events regularly, and we want to make sure that we are still continuing to address concerns, topics, discussions that you want us to bring up. So we do want to hear from you. Please answer our feedback form. You can use the QR code that you can see on the screen, or you can also go to the link bit.ly/Kubo, that's QBO webinar, all small caps. Again, that's bit.ly/QBO webinar. So please give us feedback. We want to make sure that what we're creating, what we're marketing continues to be relevant to you and your needs, and you want to continue to serve the startup community well. So please answer the feedback form. All right. And lastly, of course, if you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us through our Facebook page, which is where you're probably watching this. You can also send us an email at hello@kubo.com.ph. And then also, if you want to be part of the Kubo community, officially, please go to our website and check out the join link. Then we can do an interview with you if you are a startup founder and officially have you onboarded as part of our community. And that will allow you to get access to the different perks and resources that are exclusive to the Kubo community startups. All right. I think that's it. Once again, we want to thank everyone for joining us for this afternoon's Pride Month Kulitan. I want to once again thank our guests for this afternoon, Darwin, Amrei, Ron, and Evan. Really appreciate having their time, their energy, and their perspective for this particular event. We will continue to hold more Kulitans, more events for the startup ecosystem. So please just make sure that you watch the Kubo Facebook page and our social media channels for more info. Again, happy Pride, everyone, and good night. Bye.